What's going on, Fantasy Champs? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Morgan Colby, and I hope you're having a great day today. Today, I'm going to bring you my top 3 bounce back players for 2019. But before we move into that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, leave a comment down below. So let's get into our top 3 bounce back players. First on our list is Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette had an excellent first year. He finished as the RB8 in a half PPR setting in his rookie season. And last year, like I said, riddled with injuries. Injuries are a concern. If you are in the third round and you're even second round in 12-team leagues, 12 to 14 team leagues, if you are in the second round and you're looking at Leonard Fournette as a second running back, that's awesome. But you do have to consider the injury factor. He is a highly efficient runner, very good pass catcher through weeks 10 through 12 this year. You know, he played the beginning half of the season off and on with hamstring injuries, off and on with ankle injuries. And then through the weeks 10 through 12, it's a small sample size, but through weeks 10 through 12, he was the RB5 in all of fantasy. And when you look at that number and you say, okay, through those 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it was, he was that good. He's a guy that you should definitely be taking a look at as a bounce back player. He is an improved O-line. The Jaguars took second round pick, I believe it was, Jaywan Taylor, and they also got a better quarterback. So their offense is going to be a lot better than it was last year. Bortles sucks. Whoever the backup quarterback that came in for Bortles sucks. So having Nick Foles there, who isn't he's a good game manager. He's not a great quarterback, but he's a good game manager. Somebody that can game manage is exactly what the Jaguars need. The coach has already talked about how they want to give him the ball. The projections are 60 to 70 times through the air. And then they're going to run it a lot on the ground. There's no one behind Leonard Fournette. Like, this guy literally has been given all the opportunity. You know, Raekwon Armstead is not going to come up behind him and steal his job. I think he was a 6th round pick. So he has all the opportunity in the world. That's there. He's efficient and he can play well. He's shown you that he can be a top 5, top 6, top 7 running back. He was an RB8 last year in 2017. At a late second, early third round value, he's a perfect pickup for 2019 fantasy drafts. The value of an RB1 running back in the third round is something that can't be messed with. Last year, Christian McCaffrey was a guy that was going consistently at that same spot, late second, early third, that kind of area. And when you look at Fournette as being that guy, he's a great pass catcher. He can run the football. And I think, I'm not saying he's going to be Kamara this year and finish in the top 3 and all that stuff, but I think, you get your solid running back or solid wide receiver in the first round, and then you're able to go to the second round and say, okay, maybe I can get second or third round and you can get Leonard Fournette. And put him on your bench and put him in a good situation for your personal fantasy team. I expect Fournette to be a bounce back player this year. Number 2 is Odell Beckham. I was nervous about Odell early in the offseason. The 2 things more specifically that I was nervous about was his total play attempts and the opportunity that he was going to get. And so first is the total play attempts. Normal NFL teams run about 600 to 650. So the fact that they were down at like 575 to 580 was a little bit concerning. For me, when I was looking at that, I was going, okay, Odell is a very, very large concern later in drafts, just because if you're going to go after a wide receiver in the second round, first round, late first round, early second, you better hope that guy's going to get opportunity. And so for me, I was putting him Odell in my rankings like 6 or 7, and as the offseason went along, I moved him up a little bit. I believe he's 5 right now in my rankings because I really like Juju Smith-Schuster as a complete side note. But as the offseason has progressed, I really like him a lot more. The offense he's in is going to finally be good. Like, he was with the Giants, and he was really bad. That offense was terrible. Like, he wasn't bad. The offense was terrible. And so I think in a bad offense, he still was able to produce. But I think when you have a really good fantasy player, they're in a good offense, they produce a lot better than they normally would if they were in a different situation, like when Odell was with the Giants. So Odell Beckham being in a much better offense. And I don't want to get too excited about preseason hype, but the first drive where Baker came out and just scorched the field in 7 plays and scored a touchdown, like, that's the type of offense that they're going to run. You're going to see a lot of plays really fast, and that offense is going to be really good. So I think he's finally in a good offense. He's finally got a quarterback that can throw him the ball a lot more accurately than Eli Manning can. Like, I think that's just going to turn into a success for him at wide receiver. He may be the most talented wide receiver in the NFL. I've said that before. I think he's ahead of, DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's ahead of Antonio Brown. I think he's ahead of a lot of these guys in talent. I just don't think he's gotten the opportunity or had the efficiency to really produce because his offense has been so bad. And so I think in this better offense, he's going to produce like the most talented wide receiver in the NFL. There's no way he can't. His health is a concern. He's missed numerous games over the last 2 or 3 seasons. And I think if you're looking at drafting a guy like Odell Beckham, I think that's the spot where he's getting drafted late, mid second round in 10-team leagues and early second round in 12-team leagues. If you're drafting him there, I think that's a lot better than, like, if you're drafting a wide receiver in the first round, you better be sure that guy's going to be A, on the field, and B, going to be a top 3 wide receiver. And so for me, I think Odell has the ceiling of a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy football, but there is a little bit of injury downside there that you have to keep your eye on. I think he's looked healthy. There hasn't been many injury concerns as far as like what I've seen in camp. We haven't seen him on the injury report. He's looked relatively healthy. So if he comes into the season and plays a full 16 games, sky's the limit for Odell Beckham. He has a 1.8 fantasy point per target, which is really good for wide receivers. I think that, as you start scouting guys and as you start looking at players for your draft coming up in the next couple weeks, I think this is a good metric to look at. Good wide receivers usually get 1.8 to 1.85. Really good, really, really, really good wide receivers who are hyper efficient usually get about 2. So I think for Odell Beckham, he's right in that ballpark of being an extremely efficient wide receiver. The equation that I like to use for running backs also fits for wide receivers. Opportunity plus efficiency equals production. For him, he's gonna get the target share. He has the efficiency. So now all that really matters is health. Like, does he stay healthy? I think this year it's definitely a bounce back year for Odell. If he ends up as the wide receiver 12, 13, 14, or 15 again, then that is a little bit concerning. I think the only way he does finish like that is if he gets hurt again. That's about it. There's no real reality that I see him playing a full 16-game season and not producing. He's poised for a major comeback this year, and if you can get him in the second round, that seems like a pretty good value. The third and final guy on my list is Cam Newton. Cam Newton is a very interesting player. Now, a lot of people have had concerns. Cam Newton last year, he played 15 games, I believe, 14 or 15 games, and he was very good over 12 of those games. Whenever Cam Newton plays 16 games, he finishes as a QB4 or better. That is crazy. He was the number 4 quarterback all the way through 12 weeks last year, and then he ended up getting hurting his shoulder and obviously having problems with that I think that made him miss 2 games. But I think for when you look at Cam Newton, I mean, if his shoulder gets back to where it needs to be and he plays all 16 games next year, you're talking about getting a top 5 quarterback in the 9th or 10th round. Like, that is crazy value. And if you're not going after Cam Newton because he burned you in the last 4 games in the season last year, then, that's your own problems. But, for me, I think you got to get past the burn. You have to get past the hurt, and you need to go straight after this guy because he is a perfect value for 2019. I think that as I began, like at the beginning, I was kind of like, I'm not really a huge fan of Cam Newton. He doesn't throw a lot of yards. He doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns. He's not like the elite passers in the NFL. But the thing that he does do is rush the football extremely well. And I think this year you have 2 improved wide receivers in Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. You finally have a receiving core that is good. Greg Olsen is returning. You have Christian McCaffrey in your backfield. Like, everything is around Cam Newton for him to succeed, and I think he's going to have a top 5 quarterback season. I mean, it would be silly not to believe that. I have him ranked inside my top 5, somewhere in my top 5, I believe. He might be top 6, but I think for me, to have a top 5 or 6 quarterback that you can draft in the 9th or 10th round is an insanely good value. So don't let the bad Cam Newton play burn you into believing that he's not going to be good this year. He will be good this year if he plays all 16 games. The only concern, like I said, is the shoulder. And from what I've seen in training camp and, from what we'll probably see in preseason games coming up, is that Cam Newton is okay. Like, he's totally fine. So as my third player, I believe Cam Newton will bounce back this year and be a top 5 quarterback. There you have it. This is my top 3 bounce back player list for 2019. I want to know who your favorite bounce back player is. Be sure to leave that below in the comments and like and subscribe. See you in the next video.